let's go live. Let's go live because it is Friday. Today is my favorite day of the week, as you know, because it is Epic Cash Live. It is December 9th. Let me make sure that I'm not going to get blown away over here. Nope, we're good. Sports fans, thank you, everybody in the in the Epic Cash community, for your condolences regarding my father. I'm going to be flying out on Monday for the wake funeral next week, and then I will fly back Thursday. So won't have a Tuesday evening show with Ab, and will not have the Wednesday nooner with Max and whoever else joins us on those. But we will be back next week for Epic Cash Live, and it sure will be good to see you all. Today we have a couple of topics to discuss. First of all, Yoga dude, who we call Master of All, but he is really, really smart when it comes to mining, all things mining. And I'm talking about like things that you would never think about, vulnerabilities that you would never think about. And he has been doing some digging recently and wanted to riff on what he found regarding ASICs. So we're going to start with that, but then we're going to follow up. I have a very special guest on with us, Dark Star, and we're going to talk about, as I've titled the show, effective finesseful outreach. How do we go from being an undiscovered coin to a coin with mass adoption? Awareness, right? And that takes outreach. That takes getting on people's radars, be it influencers, people who we want to issue an invitation to come on Max's DNA of Bitcoin podcast. And there are, I'm a sales guy. I've been a sales guy my whole life, or I have been in sales, I should say, my whole life. And I will tell you, as good as I am at persuasive selling, I absolutely suck at cold outreach. I hate it with a passion. I'm swimming upstream when I do it. But if you give me an endorsed entree to somebody, then we got game. So my world on the Venn diagram is giving me endorsed entrees. Now, other people just have, I'll just say it, balls of steel. They look at every no like, good, cool. That just means I'm one step closer to a yes. And it just, it just never bothers them to hear, take me, don't call me again, or no, or not interested. Well, Dark Star, I use the word finesseful in the title because Dark Star has a ton of finesse in both his voice, as you will hear, but also how he writes. And so he has done some amazing outreach for us, and we're going to talk about that. He was responsible for the Coin Bureau Connection, Crypto Coin Show, and is also kind of leading the full frontal on getting great guests on the DNA of podcast, or DNA of Bitcoin podcast. And then we'll wrap it up. Max, as always, is really good at being able to give you a little highlight of where we are. There was a tech update, a written update that gives a status report that was released this week that perhaps we could talk about. But let's start with Yoga. Yoga. Old habits.
I love you, man. Seriously, you dodged me more than most, but that's okay. Everybody knows by now.
Even though it says, when you start talking, it says Gene on the screen. But is that just
fine?
For me? Okay.
Yeah, because you're in my contacts list, my friend. Okay. So anyway, here's the thing, and this is, we're talking about awareness, actually, something that you brought up, and I just want to tie this into awareness. One of the things with crypto is awareness, right? You got to know your liabilities, you got to know your potential issues with security and stuff like that. Yes. Okay. And this is not a new development. This is not something, just to clarify, this is not something that I just dug in, and this is something that I've been aware of for years. And nerds on Reddit are aware of this, and some other people are aware of this. And the Bitcoin maxis, and anybody who is with Ethereum, who was, before it went from proof of work to proof of stake was aware of this. The issue at a fundamental level is that all ASICs are vulnerable. Okay, they've been vulnerable, they are vulnerable, and they will forever be vulnerable. Okay, so anybody who talks about how, yes, our proof of work network is distributed and it is decentralized and is permissionless, if they're using ASICs, they are 100% full of shit. Okay, 100%. And by that, I mean,
say that again.
They are 100% full of shit. Okay. Now, we use open source and we use PCs. We use decentralized, like you might be using a Mac, I might be using a HP box, somebody's using a Dell, somebody's using a custom build, et cetera, et cetera. They run on a multitude of different processors, multitude of different video cards, and they run different types of operating systems. So at a hardware level, it is very difficult to shut down world's personal computers. Okay, you're with me, right? So that's your true, 2 billion plus PC users plus all of the GPU, CPU miners. Those are unstoppable. Okay, because those are general purpose computers that do not have a built-in kill switch. Okay, and all the stuff you're running is pretty transparent, except for, of course, operating systems, are not super transparent like Microsoft and all the other, iOS. But for practical purposes, your computer is your computer, right? You use it to check email, you use it to check, play video games, do all this, watch porn, other constructive things like that. And I'm sorry, am I the only one? Never mind. Too much information, Jesus. So now let's talk about ASICs. ASIC is a very narrowly purposed device. It's a supercomputer that does nothing but, mine. Okay. There are two things. There's the software that operates it, and then there's the hardware, the actual silicon, okay, that runs it. Neither one of those are open source. Now think about that. Now Bitcoin, Bitcoin Max, you say, well, Bitcoin mining is open source, because Bitcoin mining is open source, and circular logic wins. Their mining is in fact open source. However, the platform that mining resides on, the silicon that mining resides on, is very close source. Very, very close source, okay? Because it's company proprietary silicon that cost them millions, in development, they pay to foundries. And that code is compartmentalized, and that code is not something that you can just run through a disassembler like Ghidra or something like that, okay? That code is black ice. That stuff, you have no visibility over what it does. That box allows you to mine Bitcoin while its masters allow you to mine Bitcoin. Let that sink in for a second, okay? And I'm not a paranoid guy.
No, say it again. Say it again.
Okay, so you're mining Bitcoin on your Antminer or your other, ASICs, while the people that build that box allow you to do so, okay? Just in case you have any delusions of freedom or any other kind of bullshit, okay, you're being allowed to use your ASIC. Now, Ethereum ASICs, et cetera, fundamentally same design, okay, black box, okay. And if anybody thinks that people are being paranoid about it, well, it's actually just Google backdoor, like Antminer backdoor, for example, okay, and you'll find out that
there's a kill switch on your ASIC.
There's actually a permission leash. So every couple of minutes, your ASIC miner reaches out to the mothership and asks if I am still permitted to mine.
Wow.
Okay. Now, this is just the shit that you can see. Like, this is not the really, like, the deep stuff. This is the stuff that you can actually independently verify. Okay. And if it gets a flag to stop mining, you're a proud owner of a multi-$1,000 paperweight.
Wow.
Okay. Now, there are other things that it can potentially do. For example, Bitcoin is a single algorithm, as we know, unlike ASIC. So Bitcoin and other ASIC cryptos. By the way, I'm going after Bitcoin in this particular example just because, well, everybody knows. But other cryptos that are using ASIC are in the same boat, because again, it's black ice. You can't see the software, you can't see the code. It's proprietary, it's not open source. Okay. So what else it can do you have no idea. I mean, it could stream porn, it could, host, porn servers, it could do all sorts of other stuff. There's really no very easy way to detect that. Okay. It can also have a bunch of other sleeper stuff in it. It's a full-blown hidden system separated from your ability to audit it. Okay. That's what you're getting with every Bitcoin miner.
Wow.
Okay. So now so Bitcoin operates on, right, because of this quote unquote decentralization. Of course, it's not subject to 51% attack because, well, there's no way to coordinate a bunch of computers to coerce it. You have to take over them with some kind of a magical device, like let's say a backdoor, right?
Yes.
So manufacturing for vast majority of ASICs is done where? In China, right? The freedom-loving country that promotes freedom, equality, and fair play. The government controls the companies, so the government can issue an edict to shut down the mining. Okay.
Yeah.
And now again, let that sink in. Okay. Now, to give it plausible deniability, this data is not even going through an SSL, right? It's not even going through a secure channel. Okay. Now, again, this is not a sci-fi scenario, but this gives those companies a plausible deniability because it's a known vulnerability that is susceptible to a man-in-the-middle attack. In other words, somebody can get between them and the internet and reshape the packets to reshape the information. So it's not just those manufacturers can hijack these boxes to, let's say, do a 51% attack on the Bitcoin blockchain, right? They can also shut down some of the machines, allowing only machines that are under their direct control. Like, you know how ASIC manufacturers, they take prepaid orders that cannot be canceled in Bitcoin. Then they build the hardware. Then they use that hardware because you can always see the spike whenever there's new silicon, right? They call it testing. Okay, what they're actually doing is for your money, using your money, they're mining your Bitcoin with your gear that you prepaid for, jacking the difficulty up. So by the time you actually get your used device, you're not getting the juiciest cut of the steak.
People, that's like you go into an auto dealership, ordering a brand new Mercedes Benz. They get it in and they drive it as a dealer demo for the first 25,000 miles just to test drive it, just to make sure.
Yeah, remember that? Yeah, exactly. Remember that Ferris Bueller episode, with the Ferrari, and the parking valets guys, took it for, yeah. So imagine this then, if they want to create a scapegoat, right? They, instead of controlling the machines themselves, they have a third party attack those machines through this well-documented known vulnerability. Right. And they execute it so that then they say, well, it's not us. It's probably some Korean hackers or some Russian. Of course, it's the Russians. Like Putin is like sitting there, behind his abacus, cranking, on all of these, hacking things. Anyway, this is my whole point: is that Maxis. This is something that's been documented. This is well known. Okay, sorry, no, it's not well known. It was well discussed, and then it was buried. Okay, but the truth has not changed. Okay, you have unknown code. You have Bitcoin backbone that is basically a bitch at the whim of the Chinese government. So happy mining, Bitcoiners. That was it. Mic drop.
Wow. Back scratch drop.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, it's anybody tells me with a straight face, that, oh yeah, Bitcoin is decentralized and Bitcoin is this freedom thing and it's unstoppable. Yes, it is, until it gets a command to stop being freedom centric, to stop being, et cetera, and awesome. To do a 51% attack.
Well, thank you for that, Yoga.
So Yoga, so when I've been talking to a BTC Maxi on Twitter, and so when he says that the Bitcoin protocol is the most secure, decentralized, and distributed network, I mean, all three are false.
That would be a yes, because otherwise trying to explain away the backdoor miners. I mean, the the proof of work sits on the miners. It is validated and it is quote unquote protected by the miners, except the miners are not working for you. The miners are working for the Chinese government. I mean, by the miners, I mean the hardware.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is what gives permission to the miner every 3 minutes. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's I think it's like a random. I think it's between 1 minute to 11 minutes. I think so. There's like a 10-minute window or something like that. Or, you know, it constantly pings the mothership, basically. Okay.
Wow.
Huge.
And this is, guys, and again, this is just the stuff that we know because, you know, you set up like Wireshark or something like that, you know, on your router. I mean, of course, everybody does that, right? I mean, you do that, right? And then you audit the logs and then you see like, hey, there's this weird signal coming out of my, you know, home network going to China. And there's like a permission ping coming back going, yes, carry on, you know, sucker. So this is just the stuff that we know that we can easily verify today. But what we don't know is what other code, what other functionality is sitting inside of this box, because there's no way to audit that information. Just no way.
So pivot. And how is Epic different than
I started with that. Yeah, I started with that. We use computers. We use PCs. They're all, you know, of all shapes and sizes, et cetera, et cetera. And
don't we have 4% ASICs?
No, we use Cuckoo is kind of a funny thing. So for example, you can do ProgPow with a processor, but your efficiency is going to really suck at it horribly. Okay, you can actually emulate GPU algorithms with CPU algorithms. You can emulate, it's like a translation device, right? So you can actually emulate ASIC with a PC with like a CPU or a GPU. It's just not going to be as efficient. But the Cuckoo implementation it's more of it's almost like a bookmark that we keep in our system. So Cuckoo on Epic could actually be mined to some extent with CPU or GPU. You do not need an ASIC device, you know, for that. So it's 4% of our network, and it's 4% of our network that's essentially sort of a legacy from our green code. And the version of Cuckoo that we're running is actually not optimized for any particular ASIC, which is why you can actually hit it with CPU or GPU. Okay. Yeah. And if you do a search for that, you know, if you do a search for Cuckoo on our mining group, we had discussions about that. I mean, if you got a multi-core processor, you can mine Cuckoo. If you got a GPU, you know, rig, you can mine it with video cards. It's sort of a blend.
Yeah. Enrique, you took a shot at mining, right? Just because you wanted to get the experience.
Yeah. We still have I bought some cards, you know, some 3080s with a friend. We still have them. We're gonna plug them back in, but we just haven't gotten around to it. But the reason why we stopped mining, I think it was a couple of months ago, was because of the electricity costs here in Honduras, which were getting kind of expensive. But you know, the point of that is going to be to accumulate. So, you know, we're still going to go at it. Right.
Now, you shared before we got on, Enrique, that you have
but I also mine with my my laptop. You know, so that's always
okay. Cool. You were sharing with us that you're making some big boy, big girl decisions, you and your wife, and looking at selling some land. Why?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to buy more Epic, to use a nice chunk of it to, you know, steadily buy more Epic.
Because
the future I see with this project is, you know, unlike any other. So if I look at it from an investment standpoint, it's going to be much more safe and profitable to do that because of the fact that it's private property that no one can touch, see, or, you know, control in any way. Whereas land,
unconfiscatable, guys. Unconfiscatable.
Yeah.
And especially if you live in countries or areas where, you know, the politics might be shifting towards you know, more of a socialist kind of regime. You know, that's something to look. You know, it's something that worries people in the future.
Yeah, and it's almost like someone recently mentioned that when you acquire your Epic and you do it right and you get it on the base layer, it's like you put it in a black hole, and only you know where it is in that black hole, and
Yeah.
where it emerges, nobody knows from whom it emerged from. So,
and this is a really, really good point, that it's everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It's like when India had that failing attempt, when the Indian Congress or whatever tried to tax crypto that is in India, they had to get this reality check that, well, it's technically not in India. It's technically everywhere and nowhere at the same time. So nobody really, in fact, Europe is talking about, Europe is behind India on the technical curve, by the way, which is pretty awesome. But they are trying to talk about how privacy crypto, that is in Europe. Well, again, privacy crypto, the beautiful thing about privacy crypto is it's everywhere and nowhere at the same time. So it's not where it is because it's everywhere. It's where you're accessing it from. And crypto gives you that amazing ability to access it from anywhere in the world.
Man, there's some sexy girls that are in the chat. A new dating online. Yeah, let's just hide you. Okay. There you go.
The other day I was discussing with someone, I heard them discuss how you move crypto, cross borders. And, I was like, what are you talking about? If you have the seed words in a paper, you're not moving any funds. You have a piece of paper where you can access your wallet, so it's
precisely. And this is why Binance went from being in 6 jurisdictions a year ago to being in over 30 jurisdictions today and still growing. And this is why, as the world fragments into all of these separate jurisdictions, all you need to do is access your crypto from a location that is jurisdictionally friendly, because again, it is accessible from anywhere and you're not breaking any laws.
Yoga, quick question from the chat. For a newbie who has older computers, including Mac, Ubuntu, and Windows, which system should they start with? Any counsel?
Well, first of all, so older computers are probably not best suited for crypto because for mining, because mining is sort of like you're running a race. So your computer is going to be, that's why we say like gaming caliber systems.
Right.
So we're talking i7 or higher. We're talking, from GPU perspective, we're talking like a 3060 or higher, or at least 2060 or higher. And this is just to, people who, when they're looking up their video cards. Linux, we're friendly to Linux, we're friendly to Windows, we're friendly to, iOS, I guess. So it's I would say Windows is probably the easiest platform for somebody who never done it. If somebody is running Ubuntu and they're savvy about Linux is magical and awesome. And we have in our mining forums, we have tutorials, we have, you just use the search feature, use it from a PC because it's a much better search on Telegram than trying to use it from mobile. But you can, all the information, every question has been answered. Okay, so check out the mining, the mining group that we have on Telegram, and post your configuration. And if somebody is like running a Pentium 4 or something that was built, when Steve Jobs was still alive, I wouldn't try mining with that. But better tech from the last, let's say, 5 years, you could do some cool things with it still. We have mining pools that are very friendly, like Pool Boys, 51 pool. Allows you to do that. I love that, by the way. That's great. We're all over the place. We have miners all over the place.
Explain this to a non-miner, what this means, Yoga.
Well, actually, this is a funny thing. Yeah, and I'll get back to the miners after I explain this. But this is actually a node distribution map. So this is where we have people that popped up and they're using Epic Cash node. They're running a server. So this is copies of Epic blockchain throughout, across the world. So people fire up their server, their Epic Cash server, for mining or for just using the wallet. And you can see the geographic distribution that we're truly a very multinational coin. Early in 2020, we were in 58 countries, about 1,100 cities or 1,200 cities, and then we started growing more and more and more. And of course, initially you have the country lineup. You have countries like U.S. and Canada and Germany and China and Russia. The guys that really jump on the high tech thing. Later you kind of get more into like the nitty gritty into the smaller countries, or the countries that are not as embracive about technology. And once you get to a certain, like over 100 countries, it's hard to start adding new countries, and yet we're still doing that. Like the last 6 we added, if I remember correctly, we had like British Virgin Islands, we had Dominican Republic, we had Tajikistan, we had Ethiopia, I think, and I think some other like North African.
Come on,
country.
Chad. Come on, Chad, pull your weight.
Yes, step up, man. I know. We got some work to do, like Angola and DRC especially. We're looking right at you guys.
Okay, quick question.
And, yeah. But you know what? We're very, like Northern Africa, we're actually pretty well represented. We're in Egypt, we're in Libya, we're in Tunisia, we're in like Morocco. We got a super active guy in Algeria. So we're popping, man. We're spreading.
What is this going to look like once we have one touch miner, and 2, mobile mining?
So this is what I want to tell you guys. This is kind of so when you're accessing a wallet, you need to use a server, so you appear as a node, okay? But when you're actually mining, if you're just mining, we actually have more people than this map shows, is what I want to tell you, okay? Because if you're only mining, okay, and a lot of people are, like we have literally hundreds of people in Turkey, for example, who are mining, but we're only showing maybe about half of them on this graph. Why is that? Because they're mining to a mining pool. So to the network, they're using just the server of that mining pool that they're mining to, okay? So let's say you can have 20,000 miners mining to one pool, and the system is only going to show them as one single point on the map, and that's going to be that point where all their mining efforts coalesce, okay? Does that make sense? So we're actually like, if it was actually showing our miners, this map would be even dottier. I believe dottier is a word for being covered with dots. Yeah. But what's cool is just if you look at the world. If you look at the globe, like where we are, it's crazy. It's amazing the geographic distribution that we have, considering that how many miners are not even showing up on this graph.
Okay.
And also the fact that the Epic Everywhere campaign hasn't even started yet. The amount of effort that Ryan and Rahman and their team has been putting into getting super granular detail in every country in the world. We have a detailed strategy to put a node in every single country. So I don't know how many there are, depends on how you define them. Let's call it 194 or whatever. But every single place on the map that we don't have a dot, the end of 2023, hell, it won't even take that long. We will absolutely get there, and that's
how many countries
no one else can boast.
Are there BTC nodes?
That's a good question. Probably less than ours.
Yeah, it's definitely less than ours. I had that
data. Why would you? Why would you? There's no reason, and it takes a month to bootstrap a BTC node versus currently 3 days for ours, which is far too long. Within 1 or 2 releases, we got to push the wallet stuff out first. But Todd figured out a way to get that down to under 20 minutes. So when you can bootstrap a node in 20 minutes and the primary competitor is a month, like people think.
And by the way, just to clarify one thing, what Max said about taking it 3 days. 3 days if you're doing this from scratch. Yeah. Okay. From zero and through just regular synchronization. Now we have mirrors of the actual blockchain that people can download to massively accelerate to like well under an hour. But the next step is going to be, we're going to take this into like 12 minutes or whatever it's going to be.
So to kill Epic Cash, every one of these dots would have to be overcome but if just one little dot there in New Zealand, didn't get that EMP waiver, I'm just going to sci-fi here, guys, just for a thought experiment. It would take wiping out every one of these nodes for.
There would be a lot bigger problems in the world than Epic by that point. Okay. Now, the one thing that I can assure you is that there is no Chinese government edict that can issue a kill command that would disable our network that can do that with Bitcoin.
Right. Wow.
By the way, one thing I'm curious, why isn't SEC and the US government talking about the issue with Bitcoin being fully controlled by China?
That is, boy, you know what? That is a live stream for another day. We could probably unpack that, and we will. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'd like to pivot, if you guys don't mind, to the title of the show, which is Effective Finesseful Outreach. And I will tell you, we were recently connected with Coin Bureau and Crypto Coin Show by a community member who's been kind of quietly in the background, but he's always there. He's what did you say, Yoga? He's nowhere and everywhere all at the same time. That's Darkstar.
That's it.
Darkstar, if you want to come on, I'd like to say hello to you.
Hello.
Hey, buddy. So yes, you have really proven to us you're this guy in the background who leads with his chin versus his hand out. You have acquired Epic, like we all have, on your own after your own due diligence. You're very involved with the community. You're very committed to the community, and you took it upon yourself to just start going out to some major influencers and engaging with them, and then getting them in touch with us. And Coin Bureau comes to mind. Amazing YouTube channel. I think they have 2.2 million subscribers. But you also have their lead writer, Taylor is his name, who is just an amazing personality and soul. Just engaging with them through Telegram. He's such a joy. And he is working on several articles, of which Epic is going to be included in the analysis based upon the topic he's writing on. And I'd love to be able to have a conversation with you, Darkstar, on what is it about your approach and Epic that has allowed you to be so successful in getting the attention of these influencers and getting to come on in and engage. Because I will tell you, Taylor from Coin Bureau is engaging, and he is asking all the right questions, like crazy good researcher. And I'm pleased to say, just being a voyeur in that chat, that I think, not giving anything away because he has articles to write, but I think he's been pretty blown away by the answers, because there's not a questions he's asked that he didn't get a direct answer and he didn't go, wow, thank you. Right, Darkstar?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, thanks for having me on your show. And I would say that doing outreach takes a little bit of courage and persistence and being proactive. And a lot of the time you may not get a response back from somebody, but I'm the kind of person that doesn't take a no for an answer. So I'll kind of stay on top of it. I'll go back to the person. And a lot of the time people want to see that. They don't want to see you maybe disappear. They may be pleasantly surprised to hear back from you, right? And obviously you don't want to be a parasite and annoy them at the same time, but follow up with the person, and you may be surprised that they'll give you a response that will be quite great. Yeah. So I just want to say that Epic is on the cusp of something really big, and I'm just glad to be a part of it. And that's why I'm putting my oar in the water. And so there's been a lot of seismic activity in the past couple of weeks with Coin Bureau that you just mentioned, also with Change Now and with Ashton, the Crypto Coin Show. And I've also been privy to some amazing developments as well. But really, I would also like to thank our amazing community for their contributions. I wouldn't be in this project if it wasn't for the community members. And I would say that it's the strongest it's ever been. So thank you everyone for tuning in and watching and who's a part of this amazing journey. You all get a warm hug from me. So thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, the other thing that you're doing is you're doing outreach for Max for his DNA of Bitcoin podcast. And I just want to share with everyone right now the current list of people who have either already been interviewed or are on the docket over the next couple of weeks to be interviewed. And then there are more shells in the chamber, if you will. You're out there. That's bad. We're not trying to kill anyone. We're fishing. We're reeling, right? But Mark Cuban, Saifuddin Ammous, Robert Breedlove, more. Let's see, the CEO. How do you say it, Max? Marique Flamont.
Marique Flamont.
Marique Flamont, Chris Sullivan. She's the CEO of Near Foundation. Chris Sullivan, CEO, Hyperion Decimus. Kurt Wuckert Jr. He's the chief Bitcoin historian at CoinGeek, and Andy Hoffman, Chris Mortensen, founder of Peak Prosperity, and additionally, these are scheduled. Eric Voorhees, CEO Shapeshift, Brent Ike, Brave, Caitlin Long. I'm not sure who Caitlin is with. Maybe you guys could educate me on that. But what a lineup, man! What a lineup! And I will tell you that I know with Crypto Coin Show. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dark Star, but he was kind of a little bit lukewarm on engagement because, you know, he's heard of us and whatnot. But, you know, we're a micro cap. Who the hell are we? You know, there are 22,000 assets out there, everyone. And so to be able to get people to pay attention with you when you're teeny, you know, that takes some doing. But when we forwarded to him a few links to the interviews, including Mark Cuban, he did his tuition was just listening to those interviews, and he came back and he said, I'm in. I really want to learn more. And that's where we did our fundraise last Friday on this show, and the community showed up in spades. But Dark Star, how much easier does it make your job to be able to lean on the fact that we already have these amazing people within not only Bitcoin, but blockchain to be able to say as third-party validation, I mean, it sure was worth Mark Cuban's time. As a matter of fact, he was so impressed with Max. At the end of it, Max asked him one question about Mimblewimble. Are you aware of Mimblewimble? And Mark Cuban said, no. And Max said, would you like to learn more? And he said, I sure would. Would love to have you come out after the first of the year. Let's talk Mimblewimble. How freaking cool is that, everybody? An invite from Mark freaking Cuban to come see him because he spent an hour plus on the phone with Max talking Bitcoin. And he quickly realized, wow, I don't know as much as I thought I did. And he was so humble. Max, can you please share with us what the schedule is of the release of that DNA Bitcoin podcast?
Yeah, so number one is Mark Cuban, number two is Saifuddin Ammous, number three is Marique Flamont, and all of those are hopefully coming out within the next month or so. We're trying to get them out by the end of the year, and then we're going to do one per week after that.
Right, and the premise of the DNA of Bitcoin in these interviews are what? What are you trying to accomplish with each of these people?
Yeah, so I start out by asking, what is Bitcoin to you? And I asked 10 people that question and got 10 very, very different answers. And so I often use the parable of the blind man and the elephant, where the one is grabbing the trunk and he thinks it's a snake, and another grabs the leg and he thinks it's a tree, and another has the hands against the torso and he thinks it's a wall. There's so much going on here that depending on which part is important to you and what you're trying to get out of the quote Bitcoin exercise, it can be different things to different people. So I ask them what is Bitcoin to you? And then proceed from there. I ask them, have you been involved in mining, in running nodes, in building a business around it? Do you use it for transactions? Do you use it as money? Yeah, obviously the orange coin good laser-eyed bully types on Twitter, for them it's a store of value, and it begins at if Bitcoin's going to take over the world, it's going to $1 million. I just want to own as much as I can. And my job is to hold it because it's going to go up in price. And then I'm going to sell it later for more dollars. I think of it like a stock. Other people like Kurt Wilkert, as an example, he's more partial to BSV. For him, Bitcoin SV is Bitcoin. That's what Bitcoin means to him. With Christianity, you have the different sects and Islam and so on. It really does become religious. So I just try to understand, meet people where they are, and figure out, okay, well, what does this thing mean to you? And over the course of the conversation, we untangle different things. It's really interesting.
The origin story of the DNA of Bitcoin podcast is that you are authoring a book called The DNA of Bitcoin.
Correct.
And in that book, you studied the white paper, like every single word, front and back. You flipped it over, did it another 100 times, and you just wanted to get inside the head of Satoshi Nakamoto, or a group called Satoshi Nakamoto, and you were looking to not write the book in a vacuum, which is why you decided, I want to do an outreach to the most, the smartest people in crypto, blockchain technology, influencers, etc., to see if you're missing anything, right?
And it's not like I'm sitting down and writing a book. The book is a crowdsourced effort, much like Epic itself. So, for example, when we're talking about censorship resistance, or trust, or privacy, or whatever, as I always say, success has many fathers, and we're fortunate to have many talented writers.
Shout out Tillman. Shout out,
Tillman and Anna Zimmerman, Islo. You know who you are. Thank you for everything you do. So what emerges will be the product of many different minds and hearts and hands applied to it. And actually, more than just a book or a podcast, what I envision is a series initially of smaller editions, more pamphlet size than actual books, that eventually build up into a coffee table. Imagine some giant thing that's 10 pounds or whatever, that is kind of a statement piece that really gets into the granular detail that most people don't care about, but it's there. There's so much going on.
That will look like that, ladies and gentlemen.
That's the old cover.
The old one? Okay.
I think there's another one, maybe. So we keep iterating the branding. We keep pushing the boulder up the hill bit by bit. But essentially, the DNA of Bitcoin is going to be a platform, more so than just a book or a podcast. So we're working on right now the DNA of Bitcoin IQ test for people to test their knowledge. And so imagine you take the test, and you get involved, and you hold that thought, and you jump into the forum. Okay, well, I disagree. I'm a BTC maxi, and I think Lightning is the bee's knees. So I'm going to jump in there and defend my view. Okay, well, let's get in there and discuss that, and the truth will out eventually. So it's a platform for many voices, not just myself, to really dig deep and understand what Bitcoin is, and what it was, and what it can be. And the one thing that is coming through crystal clear, it doesn't matter that we're 50 cents and the orange coin is 17,000, which is that it's absolutely indefensible. If you really go into the white paper and you understand what Satoshi was trying to do, and the intent of the system, not as a store of value digital gold, where full transparency and censorability as far as messing with people's transactions off chains like we saw in Canada is a feature rather than a bug. No, if you go back to source and you do a blind Coke versus Pepsi taste test, 100 people out of 100, unless they're cynical, propagandizing, book talking shills trying to sell you orange coins to make themselves rich, 100% of people agree that Epic is Bitcoin as Satoshi intended. So that's really what we're trying to do with the DNA of Bitcoin idea, is not teach people how to go on Coinbase and make Wall Street rich buying the Bankster tax coin, been totally compromised. But no, if you want
peer-to-peer, you stole it, you bastard. I had my fingers crossed. Max and I have a thing. We both went, like, I'll go on a cigar walk and I'll let Max know. I'll say, next hour I'm on a walk. And we've had some of our best personal discussions that way. And as he's talking, sometimes something will pop in my mind and I'll cross my fingers. I just kind of like put that thought into my crossed fingers. And then Max shared with me, he does the same thing. So I had my fingers crossed. And I will tell you, the DNA of Bitcoin IQ test, please include in there, what does BTC stand for? And then you can do.
Oh, that's a good one.
I want the last one to be been totally compromised.
Yeah.
You guys just saw what crowdsourcing this stuff is. So
it's really the hive mind.
I want to really quickly, before I go to, I'd like to go to John, if you want to take yourself off. I lost my, there we go. I lost my thing, but I want to go to the chat. Rescued Car Collective. We love Rescued Car Collective. He said, hey, Uncle V, can I get a shout out? As we got Epic Subaru on the trailer. We're 3 hours away from the racetrack in Atlanta. So he races a car that represents Epic, which is just awesome. So Rescued Car Collective, I want you to get some pictures. Next week isn't going to happen because of my dad. But after, I really would love to have you come on and let's do a show to where you show off the car and maybe give us some footage of you racing the car and whatnot. But that's just so cool. So good luck with that. It's going to be in Atlanta. Rescued Car Collective. Maybe you go into t.me/Epic Cash, give people the, wherever you're going to be racing and any details, and invite people to come cheer you on. That would be really, really cool. So, John Ferris, I have you on the line. We are talking about effective, finesseful, persuasive outreach. And I would like to, are you there, John? Just, okay, there. Thank you. So John is, he has been one of these folks too, who's been very much in the background, but not at all. Not at all. This guy has connected us with more high-level people than I could ever imagine in my lifetime. He is so connected to the right people in crypto and blockchain technology. And I would just love to get your point of view, John, on what it is about Epic Cash that gives you the confidence to be able to take us as a project and as a community to some folks that are pretty high rollers.
Yeah, so everybody right now is obviously watching global economics, trying to figure out where they can have a secure store of value. Mm-hmm. And then also how to interact with that value. So, you're only left with a few options. Everybody's talking about it now, like gold and silver and these other components that make up the global, economics. So when you start to trade in those realms, you can, but what you'll discover is that there's a learning curve, and you'll also discover that there is it's not as simple as what has now been made available through technology. And they recognize that. These high level individuals recognize that they also recognize that there is a shift. All the conversations from the highest levels know that there's a shift where all currency and all trade will be done digitally when it comes to global economics. That is a guarantee. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a for sure.
That would be the CBDCs, right?
Yeah, correct. That's a for sure transaction that they've mapped out for many years, been mapping it out for many years. What they haven't come to an agreement on is what that currency will be. And they haven't a full understanding of the tech yet. These individuals are trying to do their best to get a handle on the tech. So the presentation, when it comes to Finesse, I believe is starting with the tech, getting an understanding to the best of your ability. You don't have to know everything, obviously, but getting your mind around the Epic Cash tech and the ecosystem of Epic in general. Once you start to understand the levels of thought, vision, and security that's been put in place, it's quick. You'll make a quick decision as to why Epic. It's not, again, there's nobody, I believe, sitting in these groups. I'm talking specifically in this one now, that has taken the approach of trying to get rich quick. The pump and dump. None of these things have taken place on purpose, and it can't act in technical sense. That can't even happen.
Right.
The law is already in place, and so again, high level individuals, they're at that level because they have an understanding. They have some understanding of how money works. And so, once you start to dive into all that's been done from the community here to explain not only how money works, but why Epic Cash works as money, then it becomes a decision that with just a little bit of understanding given, they'll dive deeper, and they're starting to get on. Everybody knows they're starting to get on board. I mean, what we announced yesterday, 126 countries now. We're in 100 countries. I mean, when you consider that from an organic approach, that ended up, I mean, without sounding too spiritual, that's a miracle. That's supernatural.
100%. 100%.
We had talked before getting on here. Max, MVP, what does that mean to most people?
Minimum viable product.
What is a minimal viable product, Max?
It means the basic version that does the minimum functionality that you could expect. So imagine Microsoft Word back 30 years ago, when it first started, it could do basic word processing, but not much more. And now it can make toast and sing, while it makes you breakfast. It's got all these additional features. The MVP version was that first 1.0, level version.
Okay.
Of that.
Okay, thank you. And I'm bringing that up, John, because I know what's near and dear to your heart. The circles that you run in, they all know what MVP stands for. Because they're all incredible business people worldwide. But try this on for size. I like reinventing MVP.
Yeah, I love that.
And having it be moving value privately. I think that is the mic drop, right? If our technology, if we can get people to have the get it factor that our entire ecosystem is built and designed with the logo almost MVP. I can see it in my head. People will automatically minimum viable product, but boom, that's the fake left. The go right is no, it's moving value privately. I think that, look, everybody out there, if you're watching this, you're invested in Epic, right? And so to me, you just do some simple math. I don't think it is outrageous to think that, we build out our ecosystem, that Epic Cash can be $5,000 a coin, let's just say. Okay. So you do your own math. Let's just say someone has 100,000 coins. That's $500 million, right? You don't move $500 million around without a whole lot of I don't know. Help me, guys, without a whole lot of notice or so to me, the beauty of Epic Cash is that it is fungible because of Mimblewimble, but mostly we're not a privacy coin, but we happen to be a coin that is private. And so that means that your Epic on the base layer basically goes into a black hole. And where it only you know where it is. So Yoga, you had a one-liner earlier. Can you share with John? Epic is,
well, it's everywhere and nowhere at the same time, I think right. is a good way of looking at it. And Uncle, I want to kind of add that this is not a whale crypto thing. This is anybody's crypto thing, because on one hand, if we're talking about somebody who has 100,000 epics, or, you know, let's say with epic, you know, being in billions or whatever, is one thing. But what I'm talking about is, look, like, people learn the hard way about security. People who were absolutely new to crypto, like miners in Venezuela, for example. Okay, Venezuela had this spike in crypto adoption of Bitcoin because they had next to free electricity, and they started mining Bitcoin, and it was in trivial amounts to the rest of the world, but because of their hyperinflation, it was actually very meaningful in Venezuela to the people that were mining it. Okay, and they were mining like pennies. I mean, like less than $1. Okay. But over there, it was actually a tangible that was immune to the hyperinflation. And what people found out really quickly is that, you know, you scraped up some Bitcoin and you go there and you buy some eggs with it or whatever, okay? And people know immediately how much you have left. People see how gradually you've been accumulating. So people can put 2 and 2 together and figure out that, okay, maybe you're running a, you know, a little Bitcoin farm at home, okay? And these people start getting hijacked. They start getting collected. They start getting blackmailed. They start getting robbed. They start getting you know, kidnapped, and so on and so on. Okay. So to me, it's not about protecting the billionaires or the trillionaires or the gazillionaires or whatever. To me, it's about a truly egalitarian approach to privacy and security. Okay. Yes, some of us are blessed to be living in more friendly jurisdictions, some in less friendly jurisdictions, some are more subject to dictatorial whims of powers that be, some less. But the Epic is an equalizer. So even to that one person who has just a few bucks, using Epic represents much higher level of personal security, where they're not going to be kidnapped, they're not going to be held up, they're not going to be abused and violated. Okay. So to me, at a fundamental level, it's from 0 to infinity kind of thing. Okay. It's scale. Technology protects everybody. And is great for moving huge amounts of value, and is great for moving small amounts of value. Okay. And there's nothing illegal about that.
No,
okay?
Not at all.
It doesn't absolve you of reporting what you need to report, and so on and so on. Okay. Just like if you're growing potatoes and they come out of the ground without serial numbers, nobody's filing off their serial numbers on potatoes. Okay. But there are mechanisms in place, you know, to sell them, to buy them, to trade them, and so on and so on. Okay. So the technology that we have is just very security centric, and you guys nailed it, like moving value privately. That's what it is.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that it's not just about whales. Let me do a little math for someone. I don't know what it is. Maybe 42 cents we're trading at. 1,000 Epic costs you $42. If we did get to that $5,000, guess what? What is that? 40 5 that would be 1,000.
$420.
$420 Epic, that would be $5 million. We're, you know, this is why we're just such an amazing stage right now. It's like, and you know, Taylor from Coin Bureau is arriving at this conclusion all by himself, just through his Q&A, that it's like I can just envision him getting this huge bicep because he has to keep down and lifting his jaw back up. And it's really cool to witness. Really, really, really smart people are starting to get it. So I don't know. I cannot imagine a better place to be. And while I'm not Todd Radamus, I do have a little bit of insight into where this whole project is heading. And I will just say that if you hold Epic now, you will be considered an OG. Anybody holding Epic under $10, I think, is going to be, put in the position to be braggadocious later. Now, you're not going to be braggadocious. You're going to be a humble servant, but I just think that, in the back of your mind, you'll be saying, man, I got in under $10. So, all right. So we are running up against the end of the hour. Thank you, everybody who showed up. Again, I won't be back until next Friday. But that's okay. I know the show will go on. I'll see you all in the Telegram chats, of which you should go to t.me/Epic Cash. I want to remind everybody, if you ever just kind of need a repository of Epic Cash links or whatever, if you check my show notes after I post these, I do my best. The last few, just because of my dad and this week, I haven't gotten to populate the links, but I try to put relevant links in all of my show notes so that you have a go-to place to go if someone's having a conversation with you about Mimblewimble. Well, there's a couple articles in there about Mimblewimble, easy to identify. If somebody wants to buy Epic Cash or acquire it, there's some links on how to acquire Epic Cash, how to buy Epic Cash, etc. If you're interested in mining, how to mine Epic Cash. So just use that as a resource. I've curated it over the last 2 years, and it's there for you to use. Okay, hey Max, you want to take us out? Anything that you want to chat about?
No, just as always, we can always use more help. So if you're looking for an excuse to get involved, shoot me or any admin an email. We'll figure out a way to plug you in. And we appreciate everyone who's here, and we'll keep at it until we win.
All right. And by the way, Yoga, I know you just went through a move. How are you liking your new digs?
Pretty happy with them, actually.
Awesome.
Pretty happy with them. I'm staying in Miami, so hey.
All I want to know is, are you still going to be able to bless us with those beautiful sunrises?
Yes, sir. Yes,
all
sir.
right. Excellent. Okay, Enrique, thank you for joining us. John, thank you for joining us. Dark Star, thank you. Max, please do come to t.me/Epic Cash. That is our hotel lobby. We will welcome you and point you in the right direction of other places to go, like Freeman U, etc. And love you guys. Really appreciate you. Grateful for you all. And we'll see you next week. Cheers.